Nancy and Lauren. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Lauren. Nice to meet you. And watching both of you on screen and take on these three episodes that were so upsetting and infuriating. Like, I was just, I was upset.
I'm, you know, it's great to hear your emotion. We felt that too. And I'm glad that we were able to do something that, you know, part of what we wanted to do on this, I mean, was to be kind of transparent and to put a lot of ourselves, include ourselves, interrogate our roles as journalists, as storytellers. And we had some debates about this. We had a spirited kind of conversation over months, a back and forth, a dialogue about the best ways to do this. But I'm really glad that our decision to kind of I don't know, put something of ourselves in this and not to remain these kind of off camera, emotionless, unseen arbiters of something elicits this some kind of reaction in you too as a viewer. We knew we were dealing with a really savvy, passionate, engaged audience, and to hear that you watched it and you felt something is is really rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me ask you, Ben, how did you do the breakdown of the three episodes? Because that was a lot of content, a lot of material.
Yeah, no, I think we had we had like a kind of writer's room. Valerie Thomas and Jennifer Luby were producers with me, and Steve Yassino was a co-executive producer. And along with Lauren, we, really broke down each act, each scene on paper, outlining it, reviewing it. So we did a lot of preparation in terms of how we prepared to go shoot, right? So there's usually three scripts or outlines for any project. There's the kind of pre-production one, the plan you go in with, and then you start shooting, and then that gets kind of revise it, and then you go into the edit with the material, and it gets rewritten again. I think there was a decent amount of fidelity with what we kind of created architecturally in the beginning, with certain permutations as we went through. But we spent a lot of time, really trying to map it out to try to understand the flow of information, of when to reveal what elements, when to add which characters, complicate the story, because we're dealing with multiple timelines, and there was a really I think a complex storytelling both opportunity but challenge here as well, in the sense that there were some linear parts of it where we're looking starting as a starting point of 1991 and Silence of the Lambs and Bourgoin making his first documentary into the present. There was all of the history before 1991 biographically, and then there's this kind of very murky, fluid, blurry versions of people's truths that had to be woven throughout that as well. And so it required a lot of outlining and writing, and then actually getting these testimonials from the contributors, processing it, experimenting it with in the edit. So, at every phase of production, there was a lot of tinkering and re-outlining and re-examining of who should go when, with what aspect of the story. And then when we got his contributions as well, how to integrate him into the story, when to reveal him, and all of these things. And so, the edit was long and mighty, and really had to wrestle it to find what we think is a really, really solid, compelling yarn, and a flow in terms of the flow of information to the audiences. Because as Lauren said, we respect the audiences so much in terms of their intelligence around true crime, and really had to be smart with not doing a disservice to them by just going with the kind of typical true crime tropes and misdirects. We had to do something they acknowledge their intelligence and their kind of savviness around the material.
And Lauren, when did you first learn about Stefan?
I learned about him, I want to say maybe in 2021. I had a colleague, friendly colleague, very kindly send me like a tip and just be like, I heard about this. It sounds interesting. Why don't you look into it? And it was, the second I clicked on the link, I mean, I think I spent like 2 hours reading. I felt like there were so many unanswered questions, both the kind of quantitative ones, like the just who's and when's and where's, but also these qualitative ones, this other layer of the whys and hows. And I felt that it was a really perfect way into asking some questions about the system, about the landscape, about true crime, you know, as a genre, as an industry, as a form of storytelling, because of, you know, meta nature of it, because of the fact that it's a true crime story about true crime that took place in the world of true crime with somebody who positioned himself at the juncture of law enforcement, of media, of social networks. You know, he presented at Bourgoin, he inhabited all these roles. He managed to present himself as a victim, as, you know, an investigator, as a sort of law enforcement adjacent person, as a member of the media, and ultimately he became a perpetrator of a kind of, you know, not a crime that you know that he could be arrested for, but of a deception, of a fraud or a con. So anyway, I thought that it was just a really rich story and a, you know, a compelling opportunity to ask a lot of questions as someone who reads and watches true crime was interested in.
I can't help but realize how social media has really like changed for a positive. I'm not a big fan of social media, but for in this case, creating this group of the Fourth Eye Corporation, thanks to social media and getting this out there. So what was your case, Ben, or I don't know if you were involved, Lauren, and getting these subjects from that corporation, the Fourth Eye?
They were really eager to talk because they had done all this work, and I want to say it was meticulous work that really stood up every time I poked it with my kind of like professional journalist tools. It was super solid, and like I really salute their work. But the thing was, like, they did all this great work, and then it took a while for it to catch on, and you know, they didn't have a platform. I mean, these were just people, one's a nurse, one is a dispatcher, another, you know, they're regular people who have jobs and who have other commitments and who were not at all connected in the sense of like having a traditional platform. And so they were like really, really keen to just get their work out there. Ben, you can talk about it for the screen, but as soon as I made contact with them, I mean, once they wanted to kind of like suss out, you know, who I was and what I wanted, but once we had established a certain level of trust, you know, our working relationship was really fruitful.
Yeah, and we as a production company and filmmakers were the beneficiary of Lauren's outreach and work and credibility, along with the New Yorkers. And so by the time we came to them, you know, asking for on-camera participation, which they hadn't really done, they had done it through their own videos, but they had done some print stuff, but they had done some pretty limited work, you know, partially because their story broke at the height of COVID, and, you know, news crews and doc crews pulling up to their space. But we were, you know, because, you know, Lauren had, you know, attended to them with such credibility and integrity, you know, we were the beneficiaries of that, being partners in the project. You know, but then in any project, getting people to, you know, really earn their trust, you know, you have to spend, you know, hours in phone calls and emails, WhatsApp groups to kind of, you know, help engender that trust even further. So when you show up with your cameras, you can, you know, create a culture of warmth, of trust, and mutual respect, so that, you know, you're getting as much of them as you can, because that's what the audience is going to want. They're going to not want the surface version of anyone. So we put that work in beforehand, and a lot of credit goes to my colleague Jennifer Luby, who is French American, you know, bilingual, was instrumental in helping me navigate, you know, some of the members of the group that didn't speak English, both in advance and in the field. You know, conducting some of the interviews, with me or for me when it, was not a bilingual speaker. And and then continuing that relationship afterwards and coming back and asking for more and continuing to just pay respect. And so that's the process of any documentary film. Particular challenge with the language barrier in some ways and cultural differences, and in a group that is a little inherently suspicious. And so feel very fortunate to have had Lauren do all that kind of legwork to allow us a kind of privileged access and entree into their worlds. And then they were magnificent collaborators with us on camera. They were gave so much of their time and of themselves, and in very vulnerable, raw ways, and in terms of their backstories, and as well as into their process over the course of their investigation.
Well, thank you so much for your time. My time is up. I could talk to you for much longer. I watched the 3 episodes, and the 3rd episode was very rewarding at the end. And it was just, it's unbelievable how this man has no shame.
Thank you so much for, watching it so carefully and just with enthusiasm. It's great to hear. So it was a pleasure to talk to you, and wish we had more time too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.